DepEd Vision. We dream of Filipinos who passionately love their country and whose values and competencies enable them to realize their full potential and contribute meaningfully to building the nation. As a learner-centered public institution, the Department of Education continuously improves itself to better serve its DepEd mission to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic education where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive, safe, and motivating environment. Teachers facilitate learning and constantly nurture every learner. Administrators and staff as stewards of the institution ensure an enabling and supportive environment for effective learning to happen. Family, community, and other stakeholders are actively engaged and share responsibility for developing lifelong learners. DepEd core values: maka-Diyos, makatao, makakalikasan, at makabansa.
Isang masayang pagbati na may ngiti sa aking mga labi. Naghahanap ba kayo ng makakatuwang sa pagre-review ng inyong anak? Meron yan sa DepEd. Ang ETUlay online tutorial ay libre at handog ng ating kagawaran sa pangunguna ng OUA ICTS EdTech. Ito ay isang proyektong makatutulong sa mga mag-aaral, katuwang ang mga magulang o kasama sa kani-kanilang tahanan para masagutan at maunawaan ang mga modules. Hangad din ng programang ETUlay ang matulungan ang ating mga guro sa kanilang mga blended learning classes. Ang ating ETUlay ay mula kinder hanggang senior high school. Bukod sa academics, meron din tayong mga special programs gaya ng All is Wellness, Reading and Math Remediation, Storytelling, Mommy Tech Talks, Classes sa Gramatika, Speech Class, Financial Literacy, at marami pang iba. Pinalawig din ng ETUlay ang ating Alive program para sa mga mag-aaral mula grade 1 hanggang grade 3. Gayon din ay mayroon tayong ALS program at SPED tutorials na makasisigurong makakamit ng lahat ang inclusive education. May SPED hotline na rin para sa inyong mga katanungan patungkol sa special education. Kaya, subaybayan mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, mula 9 ng umaga hanggang 7 ng gabi ang ating ETUlay. Sa ating pagtutulungan, maiaangat natin ang bawat isa. Ating itutulay ang pagkatuto upang di mapigil ang pag-aaral ng kabataang Pilipino. Itulay natin ito, sulong edukalidad.
Mabuhay! Good day to all! I am your tutor Madge. Welcome to ETUlay, a free online tutorial, an initiative of the Department of Education, Information and Communications Technology Service, Educational Technology Unit, ICTS EdTech. This program is aimed at helping and assisting learners from kindergarten, senior high school, ALS, Alive, and SPED learners. Aside from answering the modules, the ETUlay is offering programs which you will surely look forward to. Together with our parents and teachers, the ETUlay will bridge the gaps where difficulty and ease meet in learning new knowledge and skills. So, let us prepare our modules, pen and paper. Ready your mind to see and hear worthwhile and interesting lessons. Let us now study and learn, together with our volunteer online tutors. Tara na!
A very pleasant afternoon to all our learners, our viewers, of course, our teachers who are also with us today, and of course, our dear parents who are also here with us this afternoon and always supporting and watching our ETUlay tutorial session for English 7. So let me just share my screen first. So as for today, of course, I am here. Unfortunately, Tutor Arnel is not here with us because he is attending to some important training. And but we are both from SDO Pasig, and we are always your guide for English 7. That is every Tuesday from 1:40 to 2:20 p.m. And of course, if you would like to stay always notified by all the live sessions, not just in English, but in all subjects, of course. We have the DepEd ETUlay Facebook page. And of course, we also have it in YouTube. All you need to do is just subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will always be updated. So, as for today, we're going to have week 5, and that would be non violent conflict resolutions. So, for this afternoon, this is now about our lesson. And of course, we would like to thank our module reference. We have quarter 4, module 5 from the Department of Education, Soc Surgeon Region. Thank you very much, ma'am and sirs, for allowing us to use your created module. So, as for this session, of course, we're going to have the following objectives. So, first, we have the objective of the mind, and that would be to discover the different conflicts in literature. We also have the objective of the heart, and that is to realize the value of practicing nonviolent strategies in solving conflicts. And we have our last objective, that's the objective of the hand, or what we call skills. And of course, we're going to focus on spotting the different nonviolent ways of resolving conflicts in literature. But before we continue, of course, let me just greet our early birds for this afternoon. So I'm going to choose 3, and these very early people we have Micah Angela Data from 10 Aphrodite of Mangahan High School, and then we also have Marge Ashike de la Masa from LFG Diamantina National High School, and we also have another from SDO Pasig Mangahan High School. This time from 10 Aeolus, we have Lorraine Hibe. Thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. And I hope that everybody will be learning really, really good this afternoon because we have prepared something very special for you. And of course, this is very timely because today we are having a lot of problems already because we have the pandemic. And although we are already on our alert level 1, we still have to practice being calm. And so we have the topic for this afternoon, which is about non-violent strategies. Of course, we always pray for world peace, diba? Pang Miss Universe yan, ah. So today, before we continue, we will be awarding our exemplary duties for quarter 4, week 4 session. So our assignment last week was this one. You are going to find a sample material which you think has an information disorder. And then you're going to explain why the material may cause misinformation to the readers or viewers of that. And we have chosen only one for this afternoon, and that is none other than Mark D. Platon, a student alumnus from Sagad High School, SDO Pasig. So you are an exemplary tutor for quarter 4, week 4 session. You know, Mark Platon, Kuya Mark is always a suki for being an exemplary tutor. Every week, walang palya. It's always exemplary. Thank you very much for always supporting us, Kuya Mark, and congratulations for being an exemplary tutor again. Congratulations, Mark. So now let us proceed. By the way, before we begin with our activities, let me just give a special shout out to my excuse me, to my kids, Miko and Gab. Happy birthday! And now let's proceed with our first activity. I hope you are all ready with this. I hope you reviewed what we had last time, because I know you learned a lot, because your scores were really high. There's a lot of people who got perfect scores in their activities last week. So we're going to check now whether you still remember whatever I have taught you last meeting. So for our review, you're going to read each statement carefully. Now, I would like you to comment a happy face if the statement is correct, and a sad or a crying face if it is not. Okay, now this is very easy for you. I know you understood everything. So please be ready for our first item. While we are getting ready and while we're waiting for everybody, I would like to see whether you are already very prepared for our first activity. I would like you to write on the comment section, I am ready. If you are already very excited for our first activity, please write on the comment section, I am ready. So we will see how many people have already been very much prepared. So we now have Jeric Garobo. We also have Arvik. We also have Lorraine. And then we have Mika. We have Samantha. We have Renz. And of course, there's still a lot coming in, and that only means one thing: you're very much prepared for our first activity. So let's have item number one. So again, don't forget, you're just going to comment a happy face or a crying face. If you would like to answer, don't forget, write the number first. Let's have number one. All information that we find in different media platforms are true and correct. Okay, let me just repeat that for you. Number one, all information that we find in different media platforms are true and correct. What do you think? Is it a happy face or a crying face? Let us check. We already have an answer here from Arvik, and he said that it's a crying face. We also have the same answer with Kauri, with Lorraine, with Jeric, with John Michael, and with Bika. So is that correct? Is it a crying face? Very good. That's very good. So it's a crying face. Why? Because of course, not all information that you can find in different media platforms are true and correct. You must remember, we have a lot of instances now that we were victimized by fake news. So you have to be very careful in analyzing all this information. Next, number two, accuracy is the quality of or state of being correct or precise. What is the correct answer for number two? Again, accuracy is the quality or state of being correct or precise. What is the answer for number two? Okay, let me see. Do we already have answers? We have Jeric with a happy face, Lorraine with a happy face, Kauri with a happy face, Rhea and Janiel with a happy face. Let's check if everybody's correct. Very good. So that's a smiling face for number two. That is very correct. So if you see the word accuracy, it means that it is the quality or the state of being correct or precise. Let's have number three. For number three, you must decide which sections of a text merit the most attention in order to assess the value of ideas. Again, for number three, please write a happy face or a crying face. You must decide which sections of a text merit the most attention in order to assess the value of ideas. What is your number three answer? We have number three with Arvik. That's a crying face. And then Kauri with a smiling face. We have Samantha with a crying face also. And then we have another answer from Mary Rose and John Michael, and everybody's already having crying faces here. So let us check. The answer for number three is It's a smiling face. Of course, you have to decide. This is what I'm telling you about analysis. So, it is, of course, our task as viewers, our as readers, to analyze what sections of the text merit the most attention so that we will be able to find out the value or the main ideas of the information that are given to us. Don't forget that. Let's proceed with number 4. Ay, sorry. Okay, okay. So now let us check whether you got 3 answers correct for our review. Okay, let us check if you got that correctly. We only have 3 items, of course, for the review. So let me check. If you got 3 answers correct, please give me a heart. Again, if you got 3 correct answers, please give me a heart. So Kauri got 3, Samantha got 2, and then we have let's see, Jarek got hearts, Micah got hearts, Sudairi also got hearts. Thank you very much for participating, and thank you very much for answering. Congratulations for those perfect scores. So that only means one thing: you're now ready for our next lesson, and that is week 5. So, what do we have in store for you this quarter for week 5? So, let's now proceed with this one. I have here a picture, of course you can see. So what are these 2 boys doing? What can you see in the picture? Can we have some answers here? What can you say about our picture here? By the way, Kauri is from FBNHS. That's as far as Davao City. So happy viewing, Kauri. And then, while we're waiting for the answers of other people, of course, we also have Maddie Suwan and Paula, Stephanie, and Sog. Hi and happy viewing. So now we have an answer here from Sudairi. And according to also to Lorraine and Trisha, these 2 men or these 2 boys are arguing. Okay, that's very true. John Michael says that they seem to be mad at each other. Now let's try to decipher. What do you think is the theme or one word that would describe this one? Given this word in our mystery word, which starts with the letter C and ends with the letter T, what do you think is the picture trying to convey? Again, what do you think is that word that starts with the letter C and ends with the letter T? Okay, let's try to find that out. What do you think is the answer? Now we have an answer from John Michael and from Micah. They say it's conflict. So very, very good. That is really a conflict. So what can you say about a conflict, by the way? What is a conflict? Okay. Conflict. Okay. So while we're waiting, we have Rafael Jonko. That's from 10 Aphrodite USS. Okay. Now let us have the next question now. What is a conflict? Okay. What do you think is a conflict? Can you give me some terms that would describe or some definitions, short definitions of the word conflict? When you hear the word conflict, what comes to your mind? Where do you usually read about it? What do you usually do with it? Come on. What is a conflict? So, what comes to your mind when you hear the word conflict? According to Sudhairi, conflict refers to the problem that people might encounter. Good. Kauri says it's a problem. Very good. Lorraine is a disagreement about something. The same with Janiel, a disagreement or argument. According to Micah, it is where the problem occurs between characters. And to Samantha, conflicts is what causes an argument. Very, very good. Those are all correct. So, conflict, of course, is one of the elements of the story. But in literature, of course, a conflict is a literary device characterized by a struggle between 2 opposing forces. Conflict provides crucial tension in any story. Like what they say, if there's a story, there has to be a conflict. No conflict, no story. Okay? So, and it is used to reveal a deeper meaning in a narrative while highlighting characters' motivations, values, and weaknesses. Now, this was according to masterclass.com. Okay. Now, when we speak of conflict, we're also referring here, or you will be encountering this, internal and external conflict. Now we will be having this for this afternoon. Let me just discuss this first. So one by one we will be discussing this. When we speak of internal conflict, this is when a character struggles with their own opposing desires or beliefs. Internal conflict happens within them and it drives their development as a character. So you see our picture there, there's one man there who is having a struggle who to believe, the devil or the angel. So that is internal conflict. Now, what about external conflict? External conflict, on the other hand, sets a character against something or someone beyond their control. So, external forces stand in the way of a character's motivations and create a tension as the character tries to reach their goals. Okay, so that is external conflict. Now, let us dig deeper into this literary conflicts. You might be thinking about how can I say or how can I categorize particular conflict. So this is what you're going to do. Of course, I know you know a lot of stories, you've been watching a lot of movies, and we will be dealing with this particular topic now. First, of course, we have man versus self. Okay, or man versus himself. For example, just like our picture there, if you cannot really think of, or if you are still thinking of a decision to make, that would be a problem, right? So if you are thinking of the bad side or the good side and you're having problems with it, that is man versus self. Okay, so that's our first literary conflict. Now, another thing, of course, is when you are fighting with another person, which is like the bida or the contrabida or the protagonist and antagonist of a certain movie. That would be man versus character. Okay, that would be man versus man. Okay, like what I have mentioned a while ago. Next, what would be our third type of conflict? We also have man versus nature. Like, for example, if the story is about an earthquake or a flood, like I know you're familiar with it, San Andreas, or the story about the great, what's that? About the thunder, the I mean the flood. We also have a volcano. So all those are examples of man versus nature. Next, the fourth type of conflict, we now have this. For example, in our picture there, we have a man being attacked by a vampire. So since a vampire is non-existent, so we are referring here to a supernatural, okay, a supernatural being. So our conflict here is categorized as man versus supernatural. Other examples for that would be, of course, if you are scared of a ghost in a movie, like for example, if the movie is sci-fi, or if, or like Predator perhaps, or for example, we have Ghostbusters. So that would be man versus supernatural. Okay. Next, what about the next one? We also have this. So we have robots here fighting with a man. So this time, this is man versus technology. Okay, if you still remember, there's a movie there by Will Smith, I Am Robot. So that is man versus technology. Okay, don't forget that. Next, the last one is about man versus society. So this is all the, or these are all the types of conflicts that we are going to have. For example, the last conflict would be one man standing, everybody from the society. So that would be another type of conflict. So these pictures would symbolize all the different categories of literary conflicts. And of course, course, please do remember them because they are part of our activities this afternoon. And we're going to find that out later. So now let's proceed. Now, of course, most of the time, readers become more interested in a literary piece because of the tension in the story. If you still remember, if you're watching a movie or a teleserye, right? Or or you're reading a story, what would stick you in reading or in watching that? That would be the conflict. Okay, like what I have mentioned, if the story has no conflict, that would be a very boring story. So the conflicts is very much needed in our elements of the story. And don't forget that the readers are simply hooked in order to discover which of the characters or forces will eventually prevail. So that is always what you are looking forward to. Who will win? Who will conquer? Will it be the good or the bad? Will it be the bida or the kontrabida? The protagonist or the antagonist? And that is what you're always looking for. Remember also that conflict is a necessary element for all stories, whether it is a novel, a short story, a mystery, a romance, children's story, because it makes the plot interesting and exciting. Remember this, Cinderella will never be Cinderella if there is no cruel stepmother, right? Or Hansel and Gretel if there's no witch. Okay, so we need to add the contrabida, we need to add the antagonist so that the story will be meatier, so that the story will be more interesting. And remember, with those antagonists, we establish the conflict. Okay, so even in our lives, we do that. Sometimes we're always problematic. Why do I always have a lot of problems? But remember, with those problems, we become stronger, and those problems are conflicts in our lives. And this motivates us more, to live fully, so that we will be able to overcome all the conflicts in our lives. That is very, very important. Remember also that a conflict in a literary piece also reveals opposing beliefs and truths about life that readers can easily relate to. Sometimes you always have that, diba, while you're watching, and you're always trying to relate to the story, like this happened to me already, or I have had that problem already. So this is how a good writer or a good director or a good screenplay writer would attack a certain story, making the story be relative to the lives of the readers or the viewers. Okay, don't forget that. So, also, please do remember that in actuality, conflict is not always bad and does not have to result in violence or hurt feelings. So, when we say conflict, it doesn't follow that there has to be somebody who will be killed or somebody who will be hurt. Don't forget that we also have non-violent ways of solving the conflict. And conflicts are part of everyday life and they cannot be avoided. So, that is no longer in, not just in literature, we're talking about real life examples or real life scenario. Conflicts will always be part of our everyday life. This makes our life very normal. Okay, so very normal. A life without conflict is abnormal. So if you have conflicts, rest assured that, of course, we always pray that everything will be over, everything will be okay. All we need to do is just lift up everything, every conflict that we are feeling in our lives. And of course, the Lord will always provide us with solutions. All we have to do is just be very strong and deal with it, ask for help, and always pray. That is about conflicts in our everyday life. Okay? And also, however, whether a conflict escalates or ends negatively or is resolved and ends peacefully in a literary selection, it is entirely based on the choices that the characters make. And the choices made by a character in a story reveals his or her feelings, values, and attitude. Whatever the character will do, that would reveal his real personality. And with that, most often than not, his or her response to conflict determines how a situation ends. So it's either going to be a happy ending or a sad ending, but of course, we always believe that there are still non-violent ways of resolving the conflict. Okay. So now let us see if you got everything that I have discussed today. Let us now test, or let's have a quick test of what you have learned this afternoon. So for our second activity, you're just going to read the different scenarios presented and determine the type of conflict depicted. Again, don't forget, please write the number of the selection or of the passage that you are answering. Let's start with number one. Let me read. Anna had just given birth to a healthy baby boy. Her husband is the lone breadwinner of the family. As such, she has to tend to all their children, ages 6, 4, and the newborn. Aside from this, she also has to do all the household chores. Anna felt tired and helpless. She started to be irritable and easily gets angry. She has postpartum symptoms. Postpartum is the period just after delivery, as with postpartum depression. Postpartum refers to the mother and postnatal to the baby. The question is, what type of conflict does passage 1 show us? Okay, what type of conflict does passage 1 show us? Okay, let us have the answers. Please type in your answers in our comment sections. And while we're waiting, let me just read the following. Josa Espiritu from Diamantina National High School, grade 7 Hope. We also have Ashley Kate David from Bekuran High School. And then we also have Jeneline Historico from 10 Aphrodite. And then we also have Katrina Camille Kainday from 10 Apollo. And John Ezekiel Dalaya from 10 Adonis, and Danette Gansatao from 10 Eolus, all from Mangahan High School, SDO Pasig. So let us now have the answer. What do you think is the type of conflict that is shown in number 1? So what are the choices again? We have man versus nature. It can also be man versus supernatural, man versus technology, and we have man versus society, or man versus self. What do you think is the answer for number 1? We now have an answer from Lorraine. Man versus himself. The same with Sudari and same with Arvik. What is the correct answer for number 1? It's man versus self. Correct. So you got number 1 correctly. Thank you very much for all your correct answers. Let's now proceed with number 2. Number 2, the recent pandemic that swept the world brought a lot of change in the teaching and learning. Classes shifted to modular and online. Both students and teachers use technology in teaching and learning. Parents grappled between their works and household chores to help their kids learn. But many learners struggle in using laptops and gadgets. Now, this is something that you can relate, right? What do you think is the type of conflict in number 2? We have an answer here from Micah and from Trisha, man versus technology. Let's see if that is correct. Very good. That's man versus technology for number 2. Let's have number 3. A newly transferred neighbor discovered that the house they are renting has some ghosts living in it. The family experienced strange things happening at night. What do you think is the answer for number 3? What type of conflict does number 3 have? Okay, it's a neighbor and the ghosts. Okay, I don't want to live in that type of house. I know you don't want to do have that also. We now have an answer here from um Paula, and then Caliph, and we also have Renz, Mary Rose, and our answer is man versus supernatural. Is that correct? Okay, we now have man versus supernatural. Thank you very much for all your correct answers. Let's now proceed with our fourth type or fourth item. Let's have number 4. Residents of Makilala, North Cotabato, were hit the most by the recent series of earthquakes. It resulted to destroyed homes, buildings, and schools. What do you think is the type of conflict for number four? Okay, let's have number four. What type of conflict for number four? Okay, we now have Arvik with man versus nature, Venice with man versus nature, and the correct answer for number four is man versus nature. Very good. Okay, so okay, now let's proceed with number five. Number five, the teacher was busy discussing her lesson when suddenly two of her students suddenly got engaged in a punching duel. She found out that the boy who delivered the punch was a victim of bullying and that he cannot take it anymore. Okay, now this is very rampant in schools, bullying. What do you think is the correct answer for number five? We have Micah with the first answer, and that's man versus man. What is the answer for number five? Let us check if Micah is correct. Very good, Micah data. Man versus man. Very good. Now let's check if you got five correct answers for testing one's knowledge. If you got five, please give me a happy face. Again, if you got five answers correct, please give a happy face. That is for testing one's knowledge. That's our second activity for this afternoon. So Diary got a lot of happy faces here. Same with Arvik and Micah and Danette and Samantha and Nick and Mary Rose and John Argo and Venice. Congratulations and good job for everyone who got five. Thank you very much. That only means that you really listened and you really know our topic for this afternoon. So we can now proceed with our next activity. So this is for evaluating one's knowledge. This time, you're going to identify the conflict and you're going to suggest non-violent ways on how to solve the conflict. So you'll have a longer answer here to type on our comment section. So let's have number one. Okay, for number one, this is our passage. Mina and Letty both grabbed a chair towards a computer in the library for their research works. Both claimed that they needed such time on the internet for their research study. Okay, now the question is, what type of conflict is presented? Okay, what do you think is the conflict presented for this particular story? Again, that's Mina and Letty, okay, grabbing a chair towards the library or the computer in the library. And they are, of course, needing that time. Okay, and according to Trisha, it's man versus man. Same with Arvik. Let us check. Very good. That's man versus man. So now we have already identified the conflict. Let's proceed with the next question. Okay. Still the same story. How would you resolve this kind of conflict inside the library? Yeah. Remember that the conflict or the resolution must be non-violent. Okay, what are you going to do if you were Mina or Letty? How are you going to resolve this kind of conflict while you are inside the library? So, what are you going to do? Okay, let us see. What are your answers now? So, we are now dealing here with how to resolve an issue non-violently. So we have an answer here from Sudayari. The other one must adjust and just get another chair to settle the problem. That's good. It's very good. That's non-violent. So no fighting. Okay, let's have another answer. So we're going to wait. John Michael Janko, provide them with another chair. Very good. Very good. Of course, it's a library. There are a lot of chairs there, of course. And Lorraine, if I were the two, I will find another computer to use. Good. Okay. So we just have to look for some more resources. That's very, very good. Okay. According to John Ezekiel Dalaya, the other must adjust and get another chair. Same with Arvik, give the chair peacefully to the one who needed it the most. Very, very good. Okay. Let's proceed with the next one. Okay, we have another story here. So Erwan and his family were preparing for dinner when suddenly they felt dizzy and that the grounds were shaking violently. Every member of the family tried to hold on things inside their house to save them from breaking. However, the shaking continued that they had to flee to safer grounds away from falling objects. Okay, what type of conflict is that? Okay, but before you proceed with what type of conflict, what do you think is happening in our family here in our story? What do you think? Oh, we now have an answer here. According to Arvik and to Micah, it's man versus nature. Okay, so that's man versus nature. Now, what is happening in the story? What do you think is the scenario given to this particular passage? What do you think? If it's man versus nature, what is that? Okay, so we have John, Ezekiel, Dalaya. They are experiencing earthquake. Very good. Okay, so that's man versus nature. And so, how can Erwan and his family resolve this conflict? What do you think? Okay, you're correct, Danette. They are experiencing an earthquake. The same with Lorraine. Okay, what do you think? How can Erwan and his family resolve the conflict? I know you have already experienced earthquakes before. Now, what do you usually do if there's an earthquake? Okay. What will you be doing if this would happen? Of course, I'm not praying that this would happen. We don't want this to happen. But if ever you will be like Erwan and his family here, how are you going to resolve this conflict of man versus nature? According to Kauri, we have to be calm and find the safe place to hide. Very good. And then, according to Lorraine, they need to evacuate to the nearest evacuation center. That's good. And to Micah, they must do the duck cover and hold and just wait until the shaking stops. Very good. Arvik also is hide under the table and don't go outside. And according to Paula, they must remember the duck cover and hold, which is essential. And John Michael Janko, the best choice to do is evacuate to a safer place and, if possible, assist others while evacuating too. That's a very good answer. You did not just save yourself, but you also helped others to be safe. That's very, very good. And I commend the answer of John Michael Janko. That's very good. So now, our last question is this one. Why do we have to resolve conflicts non-violently? Why do we have to do that? Can we not just resolve conflicts even in a violent way? Okay. Why do we have to do it non-violently? Okay. So there are still some answers here while we're waiting for them. According to Janiel, we proceed to the disaster preparedness plan that is given to the community. By following those plans, they will be able to save their lives. That's very good. Okay, and to William, duck cover and hold to safe place until the shaking stops, then go to an evacuation center. Good. Now I know you have very, very good DRRM coordinators. You're very trained in earthquake, disaster, and other disasters preparedness, right? So for number five, according to Lorraine, to avoid getting hurt, okay, or getting others be hurt. Okay, so that's very good. We need to do that so we will not hurt ourselves and we will not hurt other people. According to the net, we should resolve conflicts non-violently so no one will be harmed by calmly fixing an issue safe and sound. That is correct. And of course, according to Micah, which is by just analyzing how will you solve the problem without thinking to do something violently to someone or something. According to Kauri, we prevent problems and getting others hurt. Very, very good. And you are very congratulations to everyone. Now, if you got a 5 for evaluating one's knowledge, please give me a clapping hand emoticon. Okay, those hands are for you as congratulations for doing good in this afternoon's activities. So again, if you got a 5, please comment a clapping hands emoticon. Yan, we now have clapping hands from Micah, from Lorraine, from Arvic also. And that only means that you got perfect scores. Congratulations. Great job, everyone. And thank you very much for learning with me. So in summary, remember that a conflict is a literary device characterized by a struggle between two opposing forces, which can be yourself or others. And it can be internal or external. And of course, we have to follow. It can be man versus man, or man versus self, man versus man. It can also be man versus nature, man versus supernatural, man versus technology, and man versus society. Don't forget that. And of course, conflict is not always bad and does not have to result in violence or hurt feelings. And it would always be a part of everyday life, and they cannot be avoided. And with that, let us check if we were able to do everything or our objectives for this afternoon. Did we discover the different conflicts in literature? Yes, we did. Did we realize the value of practicing nonviolent strategies in solving conflicts? It's also a check. And the last one, did we spot the different nonviolent ways of resolving conflicts in literature? Very, very true. Okay, so all our objectives were met, and that only means that you're ready for the assignment. And for the assignment, using your favorite movie, I would like you to provide the following details. First, what do you think is the conflict of the story? Number two, what type of conflict was given? And of course, how will you resolve the conflict non-violently? Okay, so you will be thinking of your favorite movies for this particular assignment. And for submitting that, of course, you may submit it to my Facebook page or to Tutor Arnell's Facebook account. And if you would like to do the exit assessment, we have here the QR code and the link. Please do the screenshot so you'll be able to take the exit assessment. And if you have evaluation or feedback to make us improve more, we have also the QR code, and we also have here the link that you can copy, evaluate the session honestly, and please do read carefully. And with that, we say thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. In behalf of Tutor Arnell, who's very busy right now, I am Tutor Drace from SDO Pasig, thanking everyone who are with me today. Thank you very much for supporting ETUlay. Thank you very much also to our team of the English Junior High School ETUlay tutors, headed by our program head, Miss May Sevilla. And up next, we have Tutor Rubilin and Tutor Jovet for English 8. Learn with them also. That's all for this afternoon. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless. Take care.
Ang husay naman! Natapos mo ang iyong tutorial session kasama ang iyong mahusay na ETUlay tutor. May bago ka bang natutuhan? I-share na yan gamit ang hashtag ETUlay Level Up. Huwag aalis ha, dahil may susunod pang programa na pwede mo ring panoorin at salihan. Dahil naghihintay na ang iyong mga tutors. Happy learning dito sa ETUlay!